Message for today, which is proceeding from last night. My talk last night, which was very much based in an initial just rejection of the we call it the Deuteronomic theology. If you do this, I will bless you. If you do this, I will bring you pain. Putting that aside. So what do I do with the phrase, Im bechukotai telechu, if you follow my laws, blessings will follow? I'll summarize last night by saying, well, what is this law? Okay, what are these chukim, umishpatim, decrees, laws about justice, mitzvot, personal callings from the divine, Torah, you might say systematic teachings. So let's say, first of all, do these exist? Is there a set of chukim, mishpatim, mitzvot, v'torah? Is there a set of teachings that if we follow them, we will bring blessing to others and blessing to ourselves? I'll call it small scale, not grand scale, just small scale. Us, the people you know, your family. And my answer for the past 20 years of my life, as I've been figuring out the virtue path, is yes. The virtue path, as a starting place, if you follow it, you will bring blessings to other people immediately. Eventually, it can guide your inner work to make you a more rational person about the emotional dysregulation that we all suffer from. Eventually, it can lead to a path of inner insight, working through negative ego states, transforming negative ego states, and in a continuous way becoming a more whole human being, the idea of Adam HaShalem. And that's why last night I call upon all of us, Im bechukotai telechu, if you follow this honor code, blessings will follow. So I made a strong case for it. Follow the honor code, the way that I worked it out, and it's in enough of my talks and on outlines that I promise I'll put back up. My honor code is no 4 C's, no bad Jedi. All heard it all before. I say to myself every morning, if I get frustrated, try to get a hold of myself. Don't talk, breathe, go to a script. That's my first container. That's the first step of virtue, interpersonal virtue. Now, I haven't changed my character because I'm still unreasonably disappointed, angry, frustrated. Unreasonably. I know myself well enough. But I have an honor code, a wall of virtue, that when I feel that, don't talk. Breathe. Go to a script. I don't have to think up what to say because I've trained what to say. Something like, if I've been hurt, ouch. If I'm frustrated, try to get my point across. If I'm not getting my point across, say, I've tried to get my point across, I'm not succeeding. We've had 3 go-arounds. Let's stop here. I'll come back later. That's a script. So whenever I feel either defensive or aggressive, don't talk, breathe, go to a script. And there's many scripts from anger, frustration, disappointment, among them being, I feel I'm being upset, I'd rather not talk now. The other person says, that's great if you don't talk. Don't ever say to an angry person, we have to talk. It's one of the worst things you could, by the way, that's your script. Person says, I'm angry, you say, how about if you don't talk? And we talk about it later. Now I say that every morning. I said it this morning to myself. On the other side, just a review, when I'm feeling that I'm being unfairly treated, and as I said a week ago, this is one of the core experiences of human beings, is the feeling of injustice in personal relationships and also, of course, out in the world. So when you feel unjustly treated, many people just check out and get depressed, they go medicate, or they get angry, frustrated. One thing that many people do is they try to defend themselves. This is unreasonable. You are unfairly blaming me, accusing me, you don't understand me, and I want to set the record straight. Now that is a very good urge. So I call this the good Jedi. Someone's saying something to me that for me is not right, reasonable, or fair. So I can say, well, may I present my side? Maybe the other person is too angry and this is not a good time. I say, okay, later. But let's say, okay, so I try to justify, explain, defend, Deny, meaning that actually never happened, or give him more information. It's the good Jedi. It's a good thing to try to do that. 1, 2, 3 go-arounds. Other people can get so stuck that your reasoning with them doesn't get anywhere. If you continue after 3 go-arounds, I call it the bad Jedi. Bad, justifying, explaining, defending, denying, trying to give more information. It doesn't go anywhere. And so everybody who's studied with me, in these many years that I've been sharpening these thoughts, no, don't speak in anger, no 4 C's, criticizing, complaining, condemning, escalating conflict, no bad Jedi, they know it. And then continuously, I'll get an email or call from somebody who studied with me, studied exactly this material, and they say things went really bad with my spouse. Things went really bad with my parents or with my children. And I try to get a police report, just the bare basis of what's happening. That's the beginning of rationality. Can you just stick with the facts, which many people find profoundly difficult? I get to what happened, and I say, well, it sounds like you got angry. Yes. And did you follow my teachings? Don't talk, breathe, go to script, no 4 C's. Not really. To tell you the truth, I kind of forgot. I know I took your class, but it didn't stick with me. I said, well, the class I taught was not an information class. The class I taught was a way to live for the rest of your life. And I try to emphasize that. But when people take a 6-week class, they treat it like any other 6-week classes. That's really good information, thank you. I'm on to my second semester. So the honor code that I teach, which is on my honor, I will really work at no 4 C's, no bad Jedi. Now, I know I will fail, but I don't want to be a weak person that says, because of failure, I quit. I want to be a strong person that says, I will find out why I failed and start again tomorrow. Now, I know this sounds harsh to talk about weak character, but I want to wake people up. So if you're saying, well, that was really mean, Rabbi Finley, I'm only saying it so when a person says to me, I'm trying, it's not working, I say back, I'm so sorry to say this to you, please forgive me, I don't believe you. I don't actually believe you're really trying, because it's really easy not to talk. I mean, think about it. How hard is it not to talk? I just did it, right? I didn't break a sweat. Nothing bad happened. Anybody can not talk. So I say, can you not talk? Is it within your capacity? They get really upset. Yes. So how about practice that? Whenever you feel the zets, the hurt, the disappointment, you're frustrated, not being treated fairly, you rewire yourself to don't talk. And then I say, call me back when you can do that. Because a person who can't not talk, they got to find another path. And I hope it does not include a lot of talking when you're angry, because that almost always goes bad. So as an honor system means it's a path to living a life of honor, no 4 C's, no bad Jedi. So I explained this last night. We talked a little bit about why people take the class but don't do it, or have counseling and don't live up to it. And one thing is, as I said last night, and I'll continue today, it's just difficult. It's very difficult. There's nothing wrong with you if you fail. You don't fail because you're weak. You fail because you lack skills and you're not cultivating your will. What I call weak is when someone quits. That's what I say. What I say to them, this is a moral path, a moral honor code. You should be doing it. So when you don't do it, you say, I lack skills. You don't say, I'm quitting, it's too hard. Now, wherever you're at in the program, you can increase your strength and increase your skills in a very, sometimes painfully incremental way. But just try to imagine this. You're training to live by an honor code. If you follow this law, you'll bring blessing to others and blessings to yourself. That is an incontrovertible truth in my mind. People fail and then quit. Okay? That means they don't even have the will to fail again. A strong person has enough will to fail a second time, and a third time, and a fourth time, day after day. But if you fail once, and you don't fail the next day, it's because you didn't try. So I would have a person say, I failed 30 days in a row. I say, good for you. You got back into the program 30 days in a row, and you failed 30 days in a row, which is different from the person who failed one day and quit. So I would say, if I look at my life, I would say I failed more days than I've succeeded. But I didn't quit the program. I just said to myself, I lack the will and I lack the skill. It comes down to will and skill. Enough will to push myself to live by an honor code, and the skills to actually do it. And when I examine myself, when I've not lived by my honor code, it really is always my will crumbled, or my skills were not employed, or are not sharply honed, or I haven't practiced enough. It's always that. Now, one thing I put in the chat, a few concepts of Roberto Assagioli that those of you who have been with me for a while know that I've constantly taught Assagioli. The problem, his book, The Act of Will, is very difficult. I taught a few classes on it, and I've decided this is one of the classes that I will put video on demand, and I want to teach the book very, very slowly and incrementally, and you can listen to it as many times as you want. My interpretation of Assagioli, he's a little bit dated. He wrote the book from the 50s and 60s. It would be phrased differently today, but my and other people's rephrasing of it is the most powerful guide to cultivating the will and the skill. I am profoundly indebted to Roberto Assagioli for the entire system I have worked out. I feel like I'm a student of Roberto Assagioli, who tragically died in 1974, if I'm not mistaken. It pains me to know that he was alive when I was alive, and I did make a pilgrimage to Italy to learn at his feet. What I put in the chat is Roberto Assagioli. This is in part 2 of his book. He calls it The Stages of the Volitional Act. So if you have the handout, you can see it in the chat, it's right here. Now, this is a skill. So if you have a vision, I want to be an honorable person, minimally no forced knees, no bad Jedi. I want to add one thing to this, because it's part of the no 4Cs. Never try to persuade a resistant person to do, not do. Understand, realize, or be aware of anything after a couple of tries. It's only going to get worse. So I have parents with a child who's not in compliance with what they want them to do. And I'm going to say from adolescence all the way into young adulthood, from 13 to 53. The parents are still alive, and they're still telling the kid what to do. And it never occurs to them the pedagogy is bad. So I have parents, they say, I know what the child is doing is wrong. I've explained it to them. We've gone through it. I say, how often? Every time I see my child. How long has it been going on? Several years. I said, and how's that going for you? Not well. My child just won't learn. And here's a metaphor I've been giving for a long time. It could be that there's a problem with your child's, with some mechanical device. Mechanics at some level is a transfer of energy, and you guess the machine has to be fixed a little bit. I said, it sounds to me like you're bringing a hammer when you need to bring a screwdriver. So you say, well, my toaster's not working, so I'm just going to take my hammer and keep hitting it. And they say, I'll keep hitting my toaster with a hammer until the hammer changes, until the toaster changes. Well, you can try that. I don't think it's going to work. Or you can look at your toaster and say, oh, there's 4 screws on the bottom. I can take that, unplug it. I'll take that off and see if something's stuck. Or continue to hammer it. So persuading a resistant person is like hammering an appliance. So I say to them, they say, well, what do? I say, many of you have heard me say this, I won't tell you until you take the hammer out of your tool belt. Well, then what else should I do? I said, I'm not going to tell you. Because as long as the hammer's in your tool belt, you're going to get frustrated, you won't commit yourself to honor, and you'll just go back to lack of wisdom and use the hammer. So, it's like the person that says, okay, I couldn't stop talking. I said, well then, when you can stop talking, then give me a call, because nothing else works if you can't shut your mouth. All right, so the person says, okay, I'm dropping the hammer. Then I say, okay, so I'm going to teach you how to use a screwdriver, metaphorically. And what is a screwdriver? With children, you teach the child wisdom. You don't tell them what to do, because that's just compliance. You have to reason with them so that it comes from within. You say, yeah, that sounds pretty good. How do I teach my children wisdom? Okay, you're all ready for it, right? Become a wise person. Become a person of yourself. You can't teach wisdom if you don't have it. Now, that's the hard part. See, this is where the will comes in. I say, do you have the will to go on a path of wisdom, become a wise person? Because if you have the will, I can teach the skills. Or are you not going to try? Now, this is a decision. So I want to go to Saggioli. You see, this is a decision I'm going to talk about. You have to do it sometimes every day, sometimes several times a week. So this is a kind of a meditation that brings you back to the decision. So let's go over it briefly. The stages of the volitional act. Number 1, purpose, aim, goal, evaluation, motivation, intention. You can just say pag emai. Pag emai. Purpose, aim, goal, evaluation, motivation, intention. When I go on my walks, when I go on my runs, this is part of what I do. Purpose, aim, goal, evaluation, motivation, intention. Okay? Well, what's my life's purpose? Release sparks. Break the husk. What are the husks in me? Breaking from the honor code. I want to understand my life's purpose. I want to, my life's aim, just repeating the words because some words work differently for other people, and goal. Purpose, aim, goal. I want to live by my honor code. I don't want to cause distress to other people as much as possible. I want to be a person of honor. Purpose, aim, goal. Now, evaluation, let me think about what's going on. Now, with the irrational person, when they try to evaluate, it's always blame. I'll say 70% blame. As I evaluate this situation, it's somebody else's fault. That's as far as they go. Now, there's another set of people that will say, it's me, I'm horrible. That's the guilt, shame-driven person. We'll put that aside for a moment. But when you rationally evaluate, you look at the police report, the bare bones facts of the issue. You look at what motivated you, what motivated them, and you can rationally evaluate the situation. What you needed from this other person, what they needed from you. When you evaluate properly, you come down to one truth. For the sake of my soul, and the blessing possible in this relationship, for a little while, I don't need anything from them. For a little while. I need myself to be honorable. Now that comes from evaluation. One forgets all the time. So when I say, you need to, you must, you have to, and I stop talking, I remember my purpose, aim, goal. I evaluate, oh, I forgot. As I evaluate the situation, I add my part. And it doesn't matter if when I evaluate the math is I'm 10% off program, they're 90%, that doesn't matter. All that matters is my 10%, and of course my 10% grows the more I evaluate. So I have to evaluate every situation in a rational, courageous way and be accountable. Be accountable for me. Don't try to be accountable for someone else and blame them. That's a huge thing. Now, what is my motivation here? My motivation is to act on how I've evaluated my part. And of course, and intention is another word for motivation. But motivation and intention are words that refer to the activating of the will. Yes, I know that I'm not in compliance. This is so hard. Or do I say, yes, I know I'm not in compliance. I'm going to develop enough will to do one small thing. That's my motivation. That's my intention. It's huge to change your life. But if you change your life one small thing, one day at a time, you break it down into small parts, like don't talk. It's not as easy as it sounds when you're frustrated, but let's say that part. So now, you've gone through PAG, my purpose, aim, goal, more or less the same thing. Evaluation, motivation, intention. I think these are necessary steps in a daily meditation. All right, the next part. Then he says deliberation, which is adding on to evaluation. Now, sometimes I sit, my hands are folded, I'm looking down. What am I doing? I'm deliberating. I'm deliberating. My thoughts, feelings, emotions, drives, impulses, images, sensations, intuitions, I'm evaluating all of this. And the problem is, each of those inner forces gives me different information. My gut feeling says one thing. My thoughts say something else. My feelings say something else. Well, I'm the person in my higher self watching this cacophony of thoughts, feelings, emotions, drives, impulses, sensations, and intuitions, and images. I'm looking at all this and I'm saying, I got to bring some order to this. I'm going to face the chaos of my inner life. I'm going to deliberate and try to get to the truth of the matter. That's also a daily meditation. Now, why am I saying all this? Because this is what breaks the will down. If you're not clear about your purpose, aim, goal, if you don't evaluate, drum up the motivation and intention, and don't deliberate, the will collapse. So this is Assagioli's path to creating will, and this is the brilliance of Assagioli. He actually breaks it down. I've never seen anything like this. When I read this book, I studied psychology. I studied so many schools of psychology. I never saw anything like this. This is the beginning of part 2, chapter 11. Next, choice and decision. I have to tell you, in my counseling practice, as I work with somebody, and they say, yes, I'm working it, no 4Cs, no bad Jedi, and then my child this, my spouse this, and something happens, and I just get overwhelmed. One thing that I say, and again, I have to have a good enough relationship that they're going to be able to take this with good humor. I say, it sounds like you haven't decided. It sounds like there's a clause in your honor code that says, except when I get really upset. Now, it's a secret clause. But your Yetzer Hara knows you have a secret clause. You have a back door. So I will live by my honor code. This is the secret clause of your Yetzer Hara, unless and until this happens. Now, I am not I if I don't bring in a jujitsu metaphor. Here's what it sounds like. You spend years and years and years, as I have, becoming good at wrestling. And then you're under such stress, you're in such a bad position that you say, okay, I'm not going to do jujitsu anymore. I'm just going to go back to a guy who doesn't know jujitsu. There's no universe in which that makes sense. Okay, I used to have bigger guys crush me. 260 pounds of talented muscle trying to choke me out, but I learned a skill. And the skill was find the little part of my lung that he wasn't crushing and breathe from there. It's an amazing thing when you learn how to do it. So crushing. I went in, I found that little part of my lungs, got just enough breath to keep me awake, because I know after 30 seconds, his muscles shake. And that got me through my blue belt. I could suffer. But I didn't say, okay, now that he's really putting it on, I'm going to explode against 200 pounds of talented muscle, and of course I'll just faint. Or stay calm, go to that couple of square inches of air in my lungs, connect my little bit of breathing to that, go back and forth, and don't pass out. That's hard. That's a skill. But I don't say, okay, now I'm not going to do it. That's going to work. Okay, I'm going to tell you something. We have a 4-striper purple belt in the club. So I'm not 260, but I can aim my weight. So I had this talented young man. I had him in my crush, and I have really good pressure. So I had him in my crush, and no, he said, "No, Finley, go hard, go hard. I want to see what you got." I said, "Okay, you asked for it." And I'm pushing, I'm trying every angle. I said, "Are you okay?" And his face is contorted. He goes, "No, no, no, keep it up. I want this, I want this." I said, "Okay." So I'm pushing, and he didn't tap out. I said, "Good for you. You found out how to not tap under the crush." He had 4 stripes on his purple belt, on his blue belt. I said, "You're ready for your purple belt." Because that's how I got to my purple belt, was I'm not tapping out unless you're going to break something or I'm going to pass out. And so many times, when I was earlier, I would tap out from pain or frustration. I can't breathe. And then you say, I can actually take most things if I angle my body right. I was actually, as I was crushing, I was looking to lock his arm, but he put his arm in such a way I couldn't move his arm. And I said, "And the way you hid your arm," he says, "No, I learned. When someone has that top position, I've got to hide this arm because they're going to grab that arm and do an arm lock in addition to a crush." I said, "That's really some high-level jiu-jitsu guy." And he goes, "Thank you." "Thanks, Finley." He calls me professor. So, wow, he's working the system. So when a person says, "I'll try the honor code until I get super upset, and then I won't use my skills," that's what that would sound like. If he says, "Okay, I can't take this anymore. I'm just going to try to burst out of here with a 2-stripe black belt on top of me." It's not going to happen. What he can do is stay in the game. That's the honor code. I'll find my tiny little breath. I won't tap from pain, hide my wrists and elbows, and let's see what happens next. And I didn't tap him out. He got out. And it was, I think for him, it was an ecstatic experience. And for me as a teacher, and knowing what he went through was kind of an ecstatic experience vicariously. Okay, that's what I want to appeal to you. If you say, "I'm trying to live by the honor code," except when you're not doing jujitsu, you're not doing the honor code. Because what you do is when you fail, you say, "I'm going to go back to that moment." This is part of your evaluation. "I'm going to go back to that moment and see what went wrong." So you don't say, "I quit when it goes bad." You say, "It went bad. I'm going to go in and I'm going to fix that habit." All right, so that's deliberation. If I have a bad moment, I'm going to deliberate what happened. I'm going to try to fix that. So I might continue with this next week because we're running out of time. And the next part is, of course, so there's a decision. I'm not breaking from the honor code. If I tap, I'm going to deliberate and figure out the next thing I need to learn. Then there's affirmation. This is an addendum to decision. There's deciding, and then there's really deciding. I want you to try to imagine that. Okay, I've decided not to speak in anger. I've decided not to get defensive. I decided all these things. And then you break bad. And then you learn what it means to really decide. I mean, you decide as if it goes from your mind and your words down into the core of your being, the gut of your soul. And you say, "Have we decided?" You line everything up. It's a deep affirmation from the core of your soul. He said, Asad Ullah calls it the fiat of the will. It's as if your will has finally been birthed. Now the problem is, if you don't continue the skills, the decision, the will is just going to collapse. So you've got to continue training. Then he says, planning, working out a program. That's what I'm trying to do. That's number 5. Direction of execution. It's another part of my Wisdom Works program. So I truly believe if you follow what I'm going to call my system of wisdom or somebody else's that's equally effective. I'm not attached to one system. I'm just saying it has to be a wisdom system that is rooted in virtue. You have a wisdom system rooted in virtue, follow the system and go through these steps, and don't quit because it's not working. Quit because you made a mistake. You just made a mistake, and you go back and fix that mistake. Now, here's what I've discovered in my life. The more I live by this, and there's many things I didn't talk about, especially managing inner life, fear, regret, shame, guilt, all the other things. Those are also part of the wisdom path, but I'm on the virtue path now. As I work this path, my life is filled with blessing. I'm blessing other people, and I'm bringing relief to my inner brokenness. In other words, I'm releasing sparks. I'm healing the divine. So I'm using this Shabbat as an appeal, especially now that this summer, Rob and I want to put my basic classes in Wisdom Works on demand online. And you can get it anytime, day or night. And there's a lot of books out there, a lot of classes online. It doesn't have to be mine, but you got to find something that says, I'm going to master this skill and train every day for the rest of my life. You find that program, you will bring blessing to others and blessing to yourself.